But many people are suffering silently because they've been taught that kindness is always the answer. But what if I told you, when dealing with a narcissist, kindness becomes the leash they use to control you? This isn't about becoming cold. This is about becoming conscious. Let's break this down. Let's get tactical, and let's get you your power back. 1. What is a narcissist really? Let's be clear from the start. A narcissist is not just someone who loves selfies or brags too much. That's surface level. What we're talking about here goes much deeper into patterns of manipulation, control, and emotional abuse. The mask of confidence. A narcissist looks confident, charismatic, charming, but that's just the mask. Underneath, it's insecurity, fear, and an endless hunger for validation. They don't seek connection, they seek control. They don't want to understand you, they want to use you. What makes them dangerous is their ability to mirror what you want to see. They'll reflect back the version of themselves you're attracted to. They study your emotions. They know what makes you feel seen, valued, special, and they use it not to bond, but to bind. This is not love. It's a strategy. The core traits you must recognize. Let's get practical. You need to know what to look for. Here are the common traits of a narcissist. 1, lack of empathy. They cannot genuinely put themselves in your shoes. They might mimic empathy, but it's superficial. The moment your pain becomes inconvenient for them, they shut down, lash out, or gaslight you and think it's your fault. 2, entitlement. They believe the rules don't apply to them. They expect special treatment, constant praise, and unwavering loyalty, regardless of how they treat others. 3. Manipulation control. They twist reality to fit their narrative. They lie, distort facts, and use your own words against you. One of their most toxic tools, gaslighting, making you doubt your memory, your perception, your sanity, until you rely on them for truth. Need for admiration. They crave attention like oxygen. If they're not being admired, they'll provoke, create drama, or turn the spotlight on themselves by any means necessary. 5, fragile ego. Beneath the surface. This part is crucial. They might appear confident, but the moment you criticize or challenge them, they collapse internally. That collapse often looks like rage, blame, or the silent treatment. The narcissist's cycle of control. They don't just manipulate at random. There's a cycle, a pattern. Once you understand this, you'll see it coming a mile away. Idealization. This is the honeymoon phase. They love bomb you. Compliments, attention, grand gestures. You feel seen like never before. You start to think, this is it. I found my person. It is exactly what they want you to think. Devaluation. Once they have you emotionally invested, the switch flips. The praise becomes criticism. The love becomes confusion. You start walking on eggshells trying to get back to the good version of them. But that version was a mask. When they no longer find value in you, when you start setting boundaries or they find a new supply, they distance themselves, often coldly. No closure, no explanation, just abandonment. And then if they sense you're moving on, hoovering, they pull you back in. Suddenly they remember how special you are. They apologize. They say they've changed. But this isn't growth. It's strategy. It's about control. And the cycle begins again. Why it's so hard to walk away. People often ask, why don't they just leave the narcissist? The answer is simple, because narcissistic abuse is psychological warfare. You're not just dealing with bad behavior, you're dealing with emotional programming. Over time, the narcissist conditions you to question your instincts, doubt your worth, crave their validation, fear their rejection. It becomes a trauma bond where pain and love become entangled. You begin to associate their approval with safety, even though they're the ones causing the harm. This is why being nice doesn't help. You're not dealing with someone who plays fair. You're dealing with someone who studies your kindness and uses it to weaken your defenses. A narcissist doesn't want a relationship. They want control that looks like love. They don't want truth. They want obedience that feels like connection. So when you recognize these traits, don't try to change them. Don't try to save them. Recognize the pattern. Respect your gut. Reclaim your space. Because you can't win playing a game where the rules are designed to keep you small. And the first step to ending the cycle is seeing it for what it really is. 2, why being nice is a trap. Let's be brutally honest. Niceness is not always kindness. In fact, when you're dealing with a narcissist, being nice can become your greatest weakness. You've been conditioned, maybe from childhood, culture, or past relationships, to believe that niceness is always the right path. That if you're understanding enough, patient enough, forgiving enough, the other person will eventually see your heart and change. But with a narcissist, that thinking is a trap, and it's time to wake up. The narcissist's game, exploiting empathy. Narcissists don't see your niceness as love. They see it as leverage. They're not wired like emotionally healthy people. They don't feel guilt the same way. They don't self-reflect. They don't change because you were patient enough. When you keep giving chances, when you keep softening your tone, when you swallow your pain so they won't feel uncomfortable, they win. Not because they're better, but because they understand something you haven't fully realized yet. You're playing by rules they never agreed to. You're trying to solve conflict with compassion. They're playing chess with control. The hidden cost of being nice. Here's what most people miss. Being nice to a narcissist doesn't protect the relationship. It erodes you. Every time you excuse the lie, every time you silence your truth to keep the peace, every time you let disrespect slide because it's not a big deal, you're not just keeping the relationship alive, you're slowly abandoning yourself. Let me be clear. This is not about becoming rude, bitter, or harsh. This is about understanding that niceness without boundaries is not kindness. It's self-sacrifice. And narcissists are experts at sniffing it out. They look for givers, peacekeepers, the ones who would rather suffer quietly than risk confrontation. Because to them, that's not love, it's access. Niceness becomes a cycle of enabling. The more nice you are, the more you enable. And here's how that cycle plays out. They cross a boundary. You feel hurt, but you rationalize it. You say maybe they didn't mean it or they had a rough day. You stay quiet. You choose peace over truth. They do it again, but worse. You give another chance, thinking patience will pay off. And now, you're trapped in a loop where your niceness is actually fueling their entitlement. And the longer this cycle continues, the more they learn. You won't walk away. You'll tolerate. You'll forgive. You'll fold. Why? You're really being nice. Let's go deeper, because this isn't just about being polite. There's something underneath that niceness. Fear of abandonment, fear of conflict, fear of being labeled difficult or too much. The belief that your worth is tied to your ability to endure pain silently. Sound familiar? That's not kindness. That's conditioning. You were likely trained somewhere in your past to prioritize others' comfort over your own truth. And narcissists feed off that kind of programming. They exploit the inner child in you who was taught that love must be earned through self-sacrifice. But here's the truth. You don't need to suffer to be worthy. You don't need to shrink to keep the peace. You don't need to be nice to someone who thrives off your silence. The shift from nice to clear. It's time to make a shift. Stop focusing on being nice. Start focusing on being clear. Because clarity is powerful. Clarity is respectful. And clarity doesn't negotiate with manipulation. Here's what clarity sounds like. That behavior is not acceptable. I'm not available for this conversation when you're disrespecting me. I'm walking away from this pattern, even if it makes you uncomfortable. That's not mean. That's not cold. That's strength. That's self-respect. When you stop being nice, they reveal themselves. Here's the most revealing part. The moment you stop being endlessly accommodating, the moment you start enforcing boundaries, the moment you stop explaining yourself over and over, they won't say, thank you for helping me grow. They'll say, you've changed. You're selfish. You're cold. That's when you know you're on the right path, because healthy people respect boundaries. Narcissists react to them. They resist them. They resent them because your clarity means they're losing control. And when someone fights your clarity, they're showing you they were never connected to you, only to what they could take from you. Niceness has its place. But when it becomes a tool for emotional survival rather than a choice rooted in self-worth, it becomes a trap. Don't be nice. Be honest. Be bold. Be strong. That's how you protect your energy, reclaim your identity, and rise above manipulation. Because at the end of the day, you're not here to please a narcissist. You're here to protect your peace. What to do instead, the strategy. So now you understand what you're dealing with. You see how being nice only feeds the narcissist's control. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need a strategy. And not just any strategy, a system built on clarity, control, and courage. One that stops you from spiraling in reaction to their manipulation and puts the power back in your hands. This is your roadmap, your blueprint, your guide for dealing with narcissists without losing yourself in the process. Step 1, set unbreakable boundaries. Boundaries are not about punishment. They're about protection. And here's the truth most people avoid. You don't need the narcissist to agree with your boundary for it to be valid. Let me say that again. Your boundary doesn't need their permission. A narcissist will test your limits constantly. Why? Because inconsistency is where they thrive. If you say one thing and do another, they'll exploit the gap. So here's what to do. Get crystal clear on what you will and will not tolerate. Say it clearly, calmly, and confidently. No long speeches, no begging to be understood. Follow through every single time. The moment you fold, they know they still have power. Examples of strong boundaries. I'm not available for conversations where I'm disrespected. If you raise your voice, I will leave the room. I don't allow guilt tripping in my space. Boundaries without action are just wishes. Make them real. Step 2, emotionally detached. This is where most people struggle because narcissists are experts at pulling your emotions like puppet strings. One minute they love you, the next they're demeaning you. Then they flip back like nothing happened. Here's what you need to remember. They feed off your reaction, your anger, your tears, your confusion, your desperate explanations. That's all fuel for them. So you've got to take your emotional energy off the table. Doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't hand over your emotions like a weapon they can use. How to detach. Don't argue to win. The narcissist isn't looking for truth. They're looking for control. Don't chase validation. You won't get it. And needing it makes you vulnerable. Practice the gray rock method. Be neutral, boring, non-reactive. Think, flat tone, limited words, zero engagement in the drama. This is not coldness. This is clarity. This is composure. This is control. Step 3, use power. Language, your words are either reinforcing their control or reclaiming yours. When dealing with a narcissist, never over-explain, never justify, never try to prove your worth. That's exactly what they want, to keep you performing for their approval. Here's how you shift the power dynamic. Replace "I'm sorry but" with "I've made my decision." Replace "I just feel like" with "This is what I'm choosing." Replace "I don't want to upset you but." with "this is what works for me." Speak with directness, speak with finality, and never be afraid of their reaction. You don't owe them soft landings. You owe yourself freedom. Step 4, expect pushback and hold the line. When you start changing the dynamic, they will push back hard. They may accuse you of being selfish, play the victim rage, or stonewall. Try to love bomb you back into submission. This is not a sign that you're doing something right. And here's what you say to yourself in those moments. This is not a crisis. This is resistance, and I will not fold. Stay the course. Keep your tone calm. Keep your boundaries firm. You are training them how to treat you, or whether they get to stay in your space at all. Step 5, walk away when necessary. Not every narcissist can be managed. Some relationships, especially romantic ones, become so toxic that the only real strategy is distance, separation, or complete no contact. And here's the empowering truth. You don't need to prove that they're toxic in order to leave. You just need to decide that your peace is more important than their approval. You are allowed to walk away from manipulation. You are allowed to block, unfollow, disconnect. You are allowed to protect your soul, even if they never validate your pain. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all, and simply walk in a direction. You can't outlove a narcissist. You can't fix them with compassion. You can't heal them by tolerating their harm, but you can take your power back. You can use strategy over emotion. You can build a life where clarity, confidence, and peace are non-negotiable. Because once you stop reacting and start responding with strength, the game changes. And they lose control, and you rise for protecting your power. You've seen the narcissist's game. You've learned why being nice only fuels the cycle. You've gained tools and strategies to respond with clarity and strength. But now comes the most critical step of all, protecting your power. Because once you've broken the spell, once you've stepped out of the fog, the goal is no longer just survival. It's sovereignty. Your peace, your clarity, your energy, these are your most valuable assets. And if you don't actively protect them, the world, and narcissists especially, will try to drain them. So here's how you guard your power like your life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. 1, master your mental space. Every narcissist's favorite battleground is your mind. Even after they're gone, their voice can echo. You replay the arguments. You question your reactions. You wonder, was it really that bad? That's what emotional manipulation does. It doesn't just wound you in the moment. It reprograms how you think. So protecting your power starts with reclaiming your mind. Here's how to do it. Journaling. Dump their voice out of your head. Replace it with your own truth. What did you ignore? What did you tolerate? What are you learning now? Affirmation detox. Remove the internalized lies. I'm too much becomes I'm allowed to take up space. I should have been more patient becomes my boundaries are valid. Maybe it was my fault becomes their behavior was their choice. Mindful awareness, notice the triggers. The over-explaining, the guilt, when it shows up, pause, breathe, and speak to yourself the way a warrior speaks. Clear, calm, and powerful. 2. Stand guard at the gate of your life. Not everyone gets access to you. Not everyone deserves your energy. And history is not a reason to keep someone in your present. Too many people leave the narcissist but keep the pattern alive by letting similar personalities in the back door. From now on, your life is sacred territory, and access must be earned, not assumed. Here's how to set the new standard, filtered based on energy, not words. What does someone's presence feel like? Draining or energizing, confusing or calming? How they make you feel is more important than what they say. Create a boundary-rich environment. Every room you walk into should know what you will and won't tolerate. Be consistent Be unapologetic. Say no is a complete sentence. If someone needs a full performance to respect your no, they were never aligned with your power to begin with. 3, rebuild your energy like a fortress. Emotional trauma, especially narcissistic abuse, drains your life force. That means part of protecting your power is intentionally rebuilding your energy reserves, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Start here. Protect your mornings. How you start the day sets the tone for how you handle conflict, triggers, and boundaries. Wake up for you, not for the chaos. Create daily peace rituals. Whether it's meditation, movement, journaling, or prayer, make space to refill your soul before the world tries to take from it. Surround yourself with empowered voices. Books, mentors, podcasts, communities. Consume what reminds you of your value, your strength, and your non-negotiable worth. Because narcissists thrive in isolation. They weaken you when you're cut off from truth. So flood your environment with voices that lift, ground, and activate you. 4, stop explaining your growth. When you rise, they'll question you. You've changed. You used to be so sweet. You're not the same person. Good, that means it's working. You don't owe explanations for your evolution. The old you tolerated what the new you calls disrespect. The old you explained, the new you exits. Let people adjust to your boundaries. Or remove themselves. Either way you win. Because protecting your power means being okay with being misunderstood by those who benefited from your silence. Define what power looks like for you. This journey isn't just about avoiding narcissists. It's about creating a life so aligned, so clear, so grounded in purpose that manipulation can't survive in your space anymore. So ask yourself, what does a powerful version of me look like? How does that version think, speak, move, and lead? What gets a yes from me now? What gets a no? Your power isn't just something to guard. It's something to embody. Because when you become your power, you no longer have to fight for it. Final truth, you don't protect your power by putting up walls. You protect it by knowing your worth so clearly that no one can convince you to question it again. That's the real win. Not revenge, not proving anything. Just waking up every day knowing I'm no longer available for manipulation, confusion, or shrinking myself for anyone. You are power. Now protect it like your future depends on it, because it does.